Hello, welcome back to the Paine YouTube channel. I'm Scott. Today we're going to be talking about this again, but mainly our nut. Because today we're going to talk about nuts. Yeah. Right now we've got the titanium 0 fret nut replacement in my 2015 Gibson Les Paul Classic. Now, the reason that it's titanium in this guitar is because the very first nut that they put in was this brass nut. Now, people complained about the pinging noise. That wasn't my issue, but if we look real close, if I can get a camera to focus in, these are string slots. And they're cut pretty big on the original nut. And if you're up on the lower fret, like first fret, you know, you're grabbing F on the E string, low E. If you bend it real hard, it would ping. But the good thing is these being so big, I could put super huge strings on there and tune it way down, because this is adjustable, so I can set the action, everything's cool. But my issue was this brass nut, it was getting cut into, and I doubt we're going to be able to see it, but anybody who's got a 2015 knows this. But there's little grooves cut in from where the strings would lay on this, which is the 0 fret. So anytime the strings would tune or get moved up and down, it would scrape, and it was leaving dust like metal flakes all over the fretboard. Don't want that. So they didn't think that through. That's the one flaw for the 2015. The reason I went back to do a video on this is because people were asking a lot about the nut replacements for this, and my 2015 video got more views, which, you know, is only a couple hundred compared to the other things, and I'm very new to this, but I've got more questions on this than I did my traditional high performance in 2017 or my 2017 standard traditional spec. But moving on to the nuts, because that's what we're talking about, nuts, and I got two more right here. These are the first two replacements Gibson sent, which in turn are brass nuts again. So wasn't going to take away, you know, get rid of the dust issue. But I went ahead and tried one. Now it did get rid of the pinging because they cut the slots on their new ones quite a bit thinner than the original. But, you know, and you can see these little tiny hex head screws right there. That's what you can adjust up and down with. But still, that was an issue because it was still, you know, it didn't last very long, like a month, and it was getting dust everywhere again. So I guess they kind of used me as a guinea pig, because I bought this, the 2015 guitar, I bought it in 2014. But they sent me this cool thing. Now this is a 0 fret nut, but it is not brass, it is not titanium. This is nickel. And they sent this to me. They sent me an email and talked to me and said, hey man, take this, put it in, and let us know and everything about it, because we might switch to these. So there was just a couple of us that tried those, and honestly it did. It lasted a lot longer. There was no pinging because the nut slots were, the string slots are cut, you know, a lot smaller than the original. So definitely no pinging, and I wasn't getting any fret dust or nothing, but I did, you know, after a couple months, notice just a slight indentation on the 0 fret nut there. I mean, I can barely even see it. But they wanted to know for sure. So I said, yeah. I said, I think this thing's going to work. I mean, I see just a little teeny tiny thing on one string, which would be the low E string. All the other ones were completely fine. And they said, okay, that's great. But they went ahead, and by then they had already changed, like they're doing the high performance line in 2016 because everybody, you know, got mad at that they didn't have the choice. They had to get in 2015 a guitar that had the 0 fret nut, the Robo Tuners, G-Force, and all that stuff on there. So they split the lines, and they went ahead and in 2016 they put titanium, which is what I've got in there now. But here's the deal. The neck width and the nut width on this is larger than the 2016, 2017, and so on high performance, because they split the difference. So the nut width, and I will put the links in the description. I went to this thing called it's the Wayback Machine. You can go there and like look up old specs from like the Gibson website and stuff from 2015. But right now I'm looking at the specs for this guitar. I will put that link in the description. I will also put the link for the 2017 in the description, high performance, so you can see the differences. But anyway, what I'm looking at here measures out, the nut width is 1.795 inches. Okay? Now let me click over here, and for the high performance, what we have is the nut is now smaller. The nut in the 2016s and the 2017 high performance are now 1.745 inches. So a 2016 or a 2017 0 fret nut will not work in a 2015. And a 2015 will not work in the 16 or 17 or 18. Which brings me to this. I bought this because after that, you know, just knowing that the brass wasn't going to last very long, even though I've got the nickel and a couple other replacements there, I went ahead and bought this Tusk nut. And this is specifically for my 2015 Gibson Les Paul Classic, but it'll fit all the 2015 and the 2014 because they came out with the 2015s and 2014. So, but that's the only thing it'll fit. And I have a link to Stu Mac that I will put up for you. And it even says it will only fit a 2015 model, it won't fit a 2016 or 2017 model. But I got that, one, you know, because look, the brass and the nickel have totally different tones from each other, along with the titanium. I did like the nickel. The tone of the nickel was definitely a bit brighter than the nickel nuts, or I mean, than the brass nuts here. And the titanium, though, it is brighter than the brass, but I think it's more of a flat EQ across the board. And it also has, and it came stock with titanium saddles, but that matches up really, really well. And I did put this one, put that on just to make sure everything fit, and it's adjustable and everything as well. And it was cool because it actually went and it gave you that old school Gibson sound. So, I mean, just that can change your tone just a little bit, even if you want to experiment. But I just bought it so I would have backups. Out of all my guitars that I own now and that I've ever owned and probably will own, the Gibson Les Paul Classic from 2015 is my number one. It plays great. The way the neck is, the way it feels, that's my number one guitar. And I don't want any kind of catastrophes to happen. Something happens with a nut, I want to make sure that I've got plenty of replacements that I can put in there. Now the titanium is probably going to last forever. If something happens to that, then I'll go back to the nickel, and I may switch to that just for a tonal difference. As for this original brass, the reason I kept that is because my buddy does he writes and everything. He does a lot of his writing on keyboard, but he doesn't have the greatest guitar sound, so I'll play on it some, with a real guitar through the stuff. But he's got his stuff like drop tunes, so he's into the newer metal stuff. I have a 7-string. The only reason that I bought the freaking 7-string was so I wouldn't have to keep setting up and down tuning a bunch of my guitars just to play his stuff. But even for a short style guitar, the Gibson, you know, I did have that thing with huge strings, man. I put 56s on there and tuned it down. It sounded awesome. But you gotta have this nut, because this one has got the slots cut out that you can put a big string in and it'll lay inside and won't just lay on top. So that's why I kept the old one, even though it's all beat up and, you know, it's going to get gouged out. But it has its purpose. And that was really the only flaw that I saw in the 2015s. I mean, if you want to nitpick, I honestly don't like the Polaroid there. I'd rather that have been, you know, the chrome like they did for the high performance stuff. You know, just because, I mean, if that slips or something, you can't really fix that if that breaks. You know, and then it's like $80 for just a new tuning key, brand new. But you can get them off eBay fairly cheap nowadays, like maybe $15 tops. So, you know, tuning her up right now. Now I've got it set to tune slower, because you can have this thing set up to quickly tune to get there, but you lose a little bit of your, you know, how well it tunes. You know, but I got it set up for doing it that way. Now you can set it up to where you can just hit all the strings and it goes. But if you hold the power button in just a bit longer, then you can tune one string at a time like I just did, and I'd rather do it that way. But it is cool to hit them all at once and see everything, you know, I like that. Oh, let me give you this other myth. Remember, I was busting some myths on this, and everybody said, "Oh yeah, manual." Watch. See? They're over here. Everyone. Sorry, man. Tuning it. It's going out. See that? I'm moving it. So you can tune that as long as the power is off. Manually. You know, because that would be the smart thing to do, but since, you know, I just messed around with it to see how far out of tune I made it. I love it. That is so cool. Really cool, man. And the other people, you know, there are people that the ratio is what they were complaining about too. It's like, oh yeah, you know, have fun. You got to crank that thing around like 4 times just to get the string to move a little bit. Okay, I'm fine with that. You know why? Because that will get you, you know, the tuning will be more focused that way. And that's not the word I was looking for. The words are leaving me. They went, meow. So, fine-tuning. Yes, fine-tuning. You can tune it much finer when you've got the ratio like that. I mean, if you're turning it one time, this, you know, it's like 1:4 ratio, you're not going to get so close. You're going to get, you know. So I'll take that. I will. Yeah, fine with that. Like I said, if you don't like those things, take them off. Sell them to me. I'll buy them. Somebody will buy them. So, if we got any more questions on this, let me know. Subscribe to my YouTube channel thing, and hit me up. Ooh, by the way, there is a group on Facebook called the 2015 Gibson Les Paul Lovers. There's a few of us in there, so if you're one of those and you're not in that group, go get in it, man. We'll hook you up. We'll talk to you. Talk about our guitars, man, and we'll love. And then we'll talk about nuts. As you can see, I have no coffee. I have no search here. My hair feels weird. That means it's time for me to get off of here, go to bed, say goodnight, see you in the next video, blah, 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 subscribe, And I'll probably do one on the Flying V, and I'll probably do one on the Schecter, unless I get more requests to do anything about this or any other questions. Then I'm going to go through all the other equipment. Maybe even some stories about Velvet here, my 2015, because since I've had this guitar, there's some pretty cool stories, man. Good stories, bad stories, great songs. Being in a country band for a bit, I don't want to remember that. Nothing against country, it's just, you know, I got caught into that one, man, and that's a story. It's a story for another day. I will see you next time. Remember, Scott Paine. Like, subscribe. Help me make some cash, man. Or just, you know, laugh at me because I'm getting a little crazy.